Hi, welcome back to our Sproutable Parent Q&A. This week we have a question from a parent who wants to know what to call private body parts when talking to their young child. Whenever I have a parent ask me a question like this, I always turn to sex health educator Amy Lang from her fantastic company, Birds&Bees&Kids, to give us the answers. Amy, what should we call them?
This is such a great question, and I think one that many parents struggle with, partially because of how we were raised without having correct names for private body parts, and partially because it's really surprising when our kids discover that it feels good to touch their privates. So a couple of things. So first of all, you need to be using the correct names with your daughter with regard to her privates. So she has a vulva, that's what's on the outside, the exterior of the vaginal area, and she has a vagina. So most people these days are calling the whole thing the vagina, and that's actually not correct because you can't see vaginas very well. They're kind of hidden away. So for your daughter, talk to her about her vulva, and tell her she has a vagina as well. And for those of you with boys, of course, they have penises and scrotums and testicles. So that's the first thing. And actually, those conversations should start from birth when you're changing diapers. They're not going to notice your discomfort using those words, and they'll grow up knowing that that's the correct name for their privates. And if you think about it, they're the only part of our body that we have special names for. This is not my smeller. So use the correct names for privates. And then with regard to her discovering that it feels good to touch her privates, to be exploring her vulva and her vaginal area, this is totally normal. It's really typical behavior with young children. And here's the deal. Your privates feel good to touch. Her clitoris, it feels good to touch it. And it feels good from the get-go, and she just is figuring that out. So your job is to make sure she understands that A, it's totally normal to be curious. It's okay to touch her privates, but that's something she does in private when she's alone. Now, I realize this is not everybody's family value. So if you don't agree that it's okay for her to touch her privates, then regardless, you need to be kind and firm if you correct her behavior. But for most people, understanding that it feels good to touch your privates, when kids figure this out, most people say, hey, that's great, and it's something we do in private alone because people feel uncomfortable when they see someone touching their privates in public. Same with boys. So this is a totally healthy behavior in children. I personally believe that it is a life skill for girls. At the end of the day, you don't want some stinky boyfriend down the road making her feel really good down there. If she already knows how to take care of business, then she's going to make better decisions ultimately throughout her life when it comes to her sexuality and sexual health.
Real moments are learning moments.